I had plans for working in the garden, but hurricanes off the coast of Florida created days of constant rain. So I was forced inside and came up with the idea to make some inexpensive woodworking gifts. Let me show you what I mean. I started by removing the shade cover from the long beds because now I wanted as much sun as possible on my plants. As you can probably tell from the wind blowing, the weather was getting ready to change. And no sooner than I took down the shade cover, it began to rain. And that went on for days. I recently made a charcuterie tray for a friend, and she liked it so much that she kept hinting about a wooden jewelry box for her husband's watches and chains. So now was a good time, since doing anything outside was next to impossible. I started by planing some cedar fence pickets that I could use for the box and another project later. You could use a sander to clean them up, but the planer is just faster. Once that was done, I simply cut off a section of one board to the length I needed. I decided to make the box 8 inches long with the bottom piece 5 inches wide, so when I add the two sides, the width should be slightly under 6 inches, which is the width of the wood. This will become very important later. I cut my first 8-inch length and then used that piece as a template for the two pieces that would make the sides of the box. I then decided I wanted the box 3 inches high without the top, and measured and cut the two sides to that height. I'm using the bandsaw, but you could use a jigsaw just as well once you've marked the wood. And on to gluing up the 3 sides. I'm using Titebond wood glue, which is fast bonding, but I came back and nailed the sides to secure the hole so I could keep working and not have to wait for the glue to bond. This wood glue works very well, but I like to keep a bowl of white vinegar and water handy to wipe off the excess. Otherwise, it will leave a stain that takes forever to sand off. With the bottom and 2 sides done, I simply needed to measure off the pieces that will make the ends to complete the 4 sides of the box. With the 2 sides cut, I apply glue and line them up to the ends of the box and clamp them in place. Again, making sure to wipe with white vinegar and water to remove the excess glue, inside and out. I let that sit for a while and then nailed the ends near the top and bottom so no nails are in the middle.
1 in 5 children diagnosed with cancer in the
With the box almost completed, I sanded the sides to smooth them out, making sure to sand with the grain. As I was doing this, I thought about what got me into woodworking. I was watching a guy build something, and he said, "If you can build a box, you are 70% on the way to being a woodworker." Thinking about it, I realized how right he was, because most of woodworking is figuring out how you want to join a box. A little food for thought. With the box sanded, I was now ready to put on the top. This is where cutting the bottom down to 5 inches comes in handy, because the sides on the width is slightly under 6 inches. So the top section fits almost perfectly over the top of the box. I'll glue it on and then shave off any extra from the top.
Every day now, it's like a gift.
1 in 5 children diagnosed with.
Once I've shaved off that extra, I make a mixture of glue and sanding dust to cover the nail holes around the box. And once again, wet wipe each hole to prevent staining. And now all sides of the box are complete, and I can put on the finishing touches. Things like rounding over the top edges, and using the sander to round over the box corners. The box, now complete, is ready for staining. I applied 2 coats of honey oak to give it a warm light color and let that sink into the wood, followed by a polyurethane protective coat. This will sit overnight to let everything settle. The next day, I was ready to create a top by running the box through the bandsaw, which is the reason to make sure the nails were near the top and bottom of the ends and not in the middle. Once the top was created, I glued in leftover wood pieces as inserts to help the top fit snugly on the box. I hope my friend's husband enjoys his new watch and jewelry box. It cost me all of about $3 to make, if I don't count the time waiting for the offshore hurricane rain to pass. And remember what I said about making boxes? I used the same process to make a tray for my coffee table. If the rain doesn't stop soon, I will have rebuilt the house. See you next time.